Hello everyone, hello everyone. I was actually looking for a good joke to start off with, something to do with a rabbi and exercise. And it's funny, you don't find any jokes about rabbis and exercising. But at any rate, a lot of people are starting diets now, 14-day diets, 30-day diets. So I recently started a 14-day diet. So far I lost 4 days. So actually in this week's Torah portion, we find an interesting story of Abraham and Isaac. They go for a walk. And we commonly call this the story of the Akedah, where God commands Abraham to take his son Isaac as an offering. And it was a story of commitment to see if Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son. Everything that Abraham was asked until now was different things that would continue his mission on continuing Judaism, spreading that there's one God. And finally, God comes to him and says, that son that you've been putting so much energy into to continue your legacy? Let's see. Let's bring him as a sacrifice. Logically, it didn't make sense for Abraham to bring his son, his child who was going to continue his life mission as a sacrifice. That wouldn't make sense. That doesn't make sense for Abraham to continue that way. So the Torah tells us the story that they traveled for 3 days. Why 3 days? Because God wanted to show that Abraham was truly committed. It's one thing God asks you to do something, you get excited, the high holiday high, or any other high that you have in Judaism, you get excited. God said, let's see if it lasts. Let's do a 3-day journey. We're going to walk for 3 days. Let's see how committed you are. Abraham continues walking for 3 days, committed, still, he's taking his son for a sacrifice. And then the Torah tells us an interesting encounter, an interesting conversation between Abraham and Isaac. So the Torah says that they were walking together. And then the Torah says that Isaac turns to Abraham and says, Dad, he says, I know you told us we're coming here for a sacrifice, but where's the animal? What are we sacrificing? And Abraham turns to his son Isaac and he says, I'll tell you the truth. If we can't find an animal, we'll sacrifice you. God commanded me to sacrifice you. And then the Torah says, and they continued walking together. And some of the commentaries say that, why did it have to mention that they were walking together twice? Don't we know that? They were on their way somewhere. They were walking together. And the commentaries explain that the first time it says they were walking together is because Abraham knew what was about to happen and Isaac didn't know. So you would think that Abraham was a little sluggish, a little sad, didn't want it to happen, didn't want to listen to what God said. He says, no, they were walking at the same speed. Isaac was leading the pace and he didn't know anything that was going to happen. He was excited to do this commandment of God. And Abraham was up to pace. He was walking with the same enthusiasm. And then it says, finally, Isaac turned to Abraham and says, what's going on? And Abraham tells him what's going on. So you think now Isaac would slow down. So no, they continued walking at the same pace. They continued walking together. In other words, they were so committed to doing what God wants. They were able to put away the facts on the table of what was going to happen, the reality. They were committed to just doing what's right. When Abraham was at a low, Isaac and Abraham were still going at the same pace. And then when Isaac came to a low, Abraham and Isaac were going at the same pace. This past week there were highs and lows. The whole world, or everyone's been anxious. These things are going up and down. How do you keep that same enthusiasm in life, the same enthusiasm in doing what we believe is right, and to get to everyone being together as a country, as a nation, as a people, as a Jewish nation? How do we keep that same enthusiasm, that same walking together? How do we continue to walk together? And the idea is that Abraham and Isaac teach us a very important lesson. The reason why even after Isaac found out what was going on, or even when Abraham knew and Isaac didn't know, the reason why they were able to keep the same pace is because they were focused on something much bigger. They were focused on something much more powerful than the actions that they were about to do. They're focused on literally just doing what God wants. And therefore together they walked with enthusiasm. They were both doing what God wants, whether it was to do this or to do that or whatever it is. There was a bigger purpose. The whims of the world and the things that were happening around them, that didn't affect them, because they were living in this world with a much greater purpose than what society or their surroundings or even what was going to happen tomorrow or the next day was able to dictate to them. So I wish that all of us, we can look deep into our soul, deep into our lives, and find something much greater about us. There's something much more unique and much greater about our lives than what's happening around us on a day-to-day basis. We're much more powerful than that. We have a bigger history. We have a lot more to accomplish and a lot more to do than getting stuck in some of the sand or the stones around us. I want to wish you a good Shabbos, and we'll see you next week.